What's happening, everybody? So I'm outside right now, and I'm going to do a quick little podcast. Initially, I was going to talk about solar, but I'm not ready to talk about that yet. I think that needs to be a little more of a detailed podcast, and right now I'm just going to talk, and I'm going to talk about something that happened recently to me. First, I got to tell you a story, okay? Now, my wife and I, we went out. Shoot, it was Valentine's Day or right around there. We went out. Now, to get me off of this property anymore is really hard to do. So that's the only time I'll usually leave this place is if I have to go run errands or, you got to do it, right? I've been married for 22 years. So we went out. I actually had a really good time. It was great. We got to spend the day. We went shoe shopping. We got some new shoes. And here's another thing. We're going to Puerto Rico sometime in June. I think the end of June sometime. And this is like a family trip, like with her side of the family and, brothers and sisters, that kind of thing. So we're going to be over there. And I've never been to Puerto Rico. I have not been to many places outside the continental United States. So anyways, we decided to go to Ross Dress for Less or one of those places while we were shoe shopping, trying to find a deal. I think one of us were looking at like a camouflage outfit or as a shirt or something like that. I think I was like, oh, that's really cool. You should get that or something. And my wife says something. She goes, I don't think you're allowed to wear camouflage in Puerto Rico. I think it's like a rule or something or like a law. And I don't know for sure if it is. I think it is actually, but it may not be Puerto Rico. But anyways, so I said, really? I said, that's odd. I said, why do you think that is? And my wife's like, I don't know. I just read it. And some lady who was listening to our conversation, right, says with the most sure voice that you could imagine, like she looks us dead in the eye and she said, it's because of hunting, because that's what they wear when they go hunting. And she said it like dead serious, and she looked serious. She wasn't joking around. And she said it with the conviction that you wouldn't even doubt her, right? So my wife and I just looked at her like, huh, really? Wow, that's odd. So, okay. So, of course, me being me, I'm big on fact checking, right? I process it for a while, and I go, this sounds kind of weird. Like, at least where I'm from, like we wear orange when we go hunting, it's not camouflage. You can wear camouflage, of course, for certain types of hunting, but I'm saying like it just didn't make sense that was the reason. So I looked it up, and it turns out it has nothing to do with hunting. It's because the military or the militia or whatever they have, that's what they wear, so they don't want citizens wearing camouflage. Whatever. I don't really care. I don't wear camouflage anyway, so that's not even the point of this. So I said, all right, and I just laughed, and I told my wife, I said, that's just the weirdest thing that somebody would say something like that to you, while you're out just talking and just interject into a conversation you're having with your spouse and say something like that with the conviction that, I don't think she was just messing with us because I didn't get that vibe, it's like she really meant what she said. So here's the moral of the story. Now you're asking yourself, well, what the hell does this have to do with anything with homesteading and off-grid living? Well, it has a lot to do with it because this is about human nature, okay? When I started this journey to buy land, to get my permits, to find the property that was zoned in the right place, all the things that you got to do prior to buying land if you want to live a lifestyle with the amount of freedom that you want, you have to know all these different things, right? Well, this is something I picked up on real quick, and everybody, I think a lot of people already know this, but I'm going to remind you because sometimes you forget. Do not go online on groups and forums and ask people any kind of information that's important to you. Okay, when I mean important, like if it's going to change the direction of your life or if it's going to be something that is going to be detrimental if it's not true, do not ask people online, okay? And the reason I'm saying this is because when I started doing this, and I still see it to this day because I'm in these groups, people, for whatever reason, I don't know why, but that lady was an example, they have this thing where they have to know the right answer, right? They feel that they get something for it, or I don't know what the psychology is. But basically, people will say with conviction, and they will, say it till they're blue in the face that this is the way it is, and they're completely wrong. Okay, and I saw so much of this when I was trying to get information for the property, and we were looking at zoning, and then I was looking in the permit process. And I just realized something simple. Why don't I just call the county, right? Call the county, call the people that actually are in charge of this stuff. Now, here's the theory that I have, or this is at least for me. Initially you try to stay away from talking to county or people because, you get this kind of thing where you don't really want to deal with the government. You don't want to deal with bureaucracy. You don't want to deal with permitting. You don't want to deal with all these things. That's kind of why you're doing what you're doing in the first place. You just want people out of your life. But one of the things I realized that I was being kind of childish about was that most of these people they're not there to hurt you. They're not there to steer you the wrong way. They're doing a job, okay? And their job is not to come after you, okay? Unless it's like compliance department or something. And what I learned was, people with the county, in general, they're not going to do anything about anything unless people report you. That's why I've always said in my past videos, like, be good with your neighbors. Make sure you have really good neighbors, because if you have a bad neighbor, man, that's going to ruin it. It's not the county. It's the neighbor or the neighbors, or if you're the bad neighbor. Because what's ultimately going to happen is the county has to act when somebody does that. Okay, they actually have to do something. Then they're backed into a corner. They have to. So unless it's something, unless there's cases where it's the same person complaining, whatever, I don't know. But the point is that almost every interaction that I've had with the county over the past 4 years, 3 years out here, and then another year prior to getting the property, has actually been positive. I've not had any bad experiences. Really, I mean, I've had a couple people that were kind of grouchy, but they weren't the people that had the answers anyways. So, but I've always called. I called and talked to the planning, department, one of the county planners, a couple of different ones. They gave me the right information. Okay, the point of this is you want the right information. Go to the people that have the right information. Okay, don't go to somebody that will tell you like they know the answer. They may be super smart at a lot of different things. They might be an engineer. They might be a doctor, a scientist, whatever the case. But that doesn't mean they know anything about planning and zoning, okay? And what you'll even find, even within the county, if you don't talk to the person or people that are directly in charge of that specific thing that you're trying to get the answer for, like zoning, for example, don't just call and talk to somebody random on the phone at the county. You got to get the person who actually, even if you got to wait for a callback, you got to get to the people that actually have these answers, because I am telling you, like, please listen to what I'm saying. I've seen it. I've seen it so many times on these forums and in these groups, like people bitching and complaining because somebody gave them the wrong information and they made a huge decision based on that, which, it's like, man, no, you can't do that, especially when you're spending your own money. That's dangerous, But I'm just telling you, like, I got information that was contradicting other people's information. And when I found out the truth, the only people that really gave me the truth were the people that were in those positions that's their job. That's their specialty, Now, I know this sounds like a lot of like common sense, and sometimes it is. And, the thing about it is sometimes when you hear things, you just need to be reminded, I mean, I have to be reminded of stuff all the time, like I got to remind myself, and just realize that don't be afraid to call the county. You can even do it anonymously. You don't have to give them your information. You don't have to give them your parcel number. You don't have to give them anything. You can just call them and ask questions. And if they want to try to get that information, you don't have to give it. You could just say, yeah, I'm not comfortable doing that, but it's really just a general question I would like to know. Now, the only issue that I've noticed is that if you call a department, right, and you get somebody on the phone, that person on the phone may not be the person that actually has the answers. They will try to screen calls before they get to the people. Sometimes those people will give you the wrong information, okay? So you got to be careful with that. But try to get, the right person on the phone. And anymore, at least in Cochise County, you can actually do online chats. I did a lot of online chatting with planning and zoning. I didn't even call them. Or emails are real good. Emails are probably the best. Now, the reason I'll say emails are the best for this, okay, and this just came to my head. I forgot about this. So, emailing is the best because once you have it in writing, of course, you can go back on that later and have proof of it. To say, no, I spoke to such and such. It's not just a phone call. I actually have it in writing here. Now, how does all this apply to homesteading and living off grid? Well, I think I told you. You have to have the right information in order to proceed with your plans, okay? Like if you buy land and your property is residential zoning, and whatever county you're in, where I'm at, residential zoning is very restrictive. You're not allowed to do certain things, okay? I'm in rural zoning. So it's RU4, which means that every house out here has to have at least 4 acres around it because they're actually trying to maintain the rural look to certain parts of land. Okay, so a lot of areas where I'm at have rural zoning, and that's the key zoning you need to do a lot of the farming stuff you want to do. Okay, because if you go buy land and it might be a beautiful parcel, if it's residential, the only thing you might be able to do is you could apply to have it changed to rural. People have done that, but I don't know, why would you want to do that in the first place? That's just a headache. But so generally speaking, unless you buy in the parcel and you realize like, hey, I think this could be a rural zone property, but whatever. So anyways, Friday here. And that just popped in my head, and that's what I'm going to be doing here initially for these podcasts. I'm just going to be like things that have happened to me over the last few years that were pretty important. I will touch on solar. I'm going to touch on a lot of different topics, okay? But I want to be sure that I'm prepared for that and I have everything set up properly. So when I do a podcast like that, I'm not wasting your time. I want to make sure, because I know a lot, but I just want to make sure that my information is concise, accurate, to the point, and steers you in the right direction, because that can be the most frustrating thing. Is another thing, even YouTube channels, be careful. I mean, I know I'm doing on YouTube right now. Another thing, I have seen it countless times. Some of the bigger YouTube channels out there give some of the worst information because they think because they have so many subscribers that everything they say is gold, and they don't fact check their own information, and they give a lot of false information. I've stopped watching a lot of them because I can't even stand it anymore, because they're, a lot of times they're just steering people in the wrong direction, or they're saying things that aren't complete truths, so that you got to be careful with too. When you're going on YouTube, what I tend to do is go to the channels that they're not the biggest channels, but if it's something specific to what I need to know, those I can usually tell. I'm like, oh, this guy knows what he's talking about. His videos are terrible, but he's got like really good information because he's a plumber and I need plumbing information here. You know what I mean? I'm not going to go to such and such homestead or whatever channel just to get information on plumbing just because they have good editing and a lot of subscribers, okay? Because they're usually doing a one-off on whatever it is you're trying to get the information from, right? So if I'm going to learn solar, I'm not going to go to, just because this homestead has a really nice channel and they did a really in-detailed thing. How many times have they done it? They've done it once, twice, maybe 3 times. I want to get the information from the guy or the girl who's done it 1,000 times or 100 times. It's going to give you the information that's accurate, okay? And sometimes those channels, you got to sift through all that. So anyways, going to get back to work. I'm trying to keep these under 15 minutes, so we're getting about 14 now. And hope everybody has a good weekend. I'm going to keep these podcasts coming as long as I can. Over now.